Well, apparently I forgot to do my Trump analysis yesterday, of which that has changed around just about everything. And we got plenty to talk about today as, once again, Bitcoin taking a little bit of a tumble in the short-term time frame, still filling out the overall range. And I do want to be following up on traditional markets as well, as plenty has happened and since the last time that we spoke in the last 24 hours. So with that said, let's put the focus on the Krown application. But before that, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest. I feel it's been a while since I've remembered to do that, but it's important. It's actually very important to myself. Anyways, looking at this right here, what do we see? We do see open interest creeping up a little bit more towards that 2.1 billion with a B marker, of which I still want to see the range broken, which we've been oscillating between for the last month and a half, between about 1.9 billion and 2.1 billion. And as you can see right now, we are getting pretty damn close to the upside of that range, alongside price action just traveling through the same range that we've been looking at for the last month and a half. So realistically, what I still want to see is I want to see a break of the price action range, either below 10,200 or above about 11,000 on especially 12-hour daily total closures, plus a break of the open interest range as well. That's going to really provide insight into whether the move is going to get fall through or not and operate as intended. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance, what do we see? We do see it popping up quite a significant percent, actually, all the way from about a 58 yesterday even to about 58 and 3/4 today, which is pretty fucking massive actually for just a one-day increase. So I imagine that most altcoins for trading versus Satoshi is not going to look all that great. And more importantly, I mean, we've been looking at the Bitcoin dominance on the long term. I don't really have anything new to add there. I'm still looking for a major reversal there, very long term, and I believe that we're still seeing that right now. It's just going to take its time. So again, as long as it holds that, especially 57.5% region, I do look at this as a major low, especially for dominance. That is not for any other pairing, just for dominance. So versus the Satoshi value. Looking at fear and greed index, we do see it coming down about 4 points from a 47 to a 43. And into the data tab we go. Where do we see any information that is of interest? Well, actually not so much here, actually. Yeah, looking at this, FEMEX definitely the outlier, by the way, in funding rate. Like, what the fuck is going on right there? It is several degrees different than the other exchanges. But still, the global funding rate still oscillating around that 0.02% region. Not really anything like too grave of an interpretation. Elsewhere, we don't really see anything that's really signaling major, massive cautions. So with that said, let's actually go into the price action charts themselves. And yes, Jesus Christ, man. I think in the last 3 days, I've gotten absolutely zero things right in the last 3 days with regards to Bitcoin. It's a fucking goddamn gift that I'm not trading this asset right now. And that's basically something that I actually kind of want to talk about this for a second here too, because as a trader, you have to realize, or at least one of the big things for me was realizing that I don't always have to be in a trade, and that I don't always have to be trading. And if I don't like what I see, and if I don't feel all that motivated by the current signals being shown, then I just won't trade. And in this case right here, this is a great example of that, because yesterday I was actually looking for Bitcoin to take another leg up to about 10.9 region. We didn't quite get there. We got to about 10.8. Could you say close enough is close enough? I not really. I mean, when ranges are this tight, fair enough. It's it's one of those things. Anyways, as it stands right now, I'd actually be flipping back onto the downside right here. Surprise. But I would be looking for another move back down to about 10,300-ish region, with still a specific interest on the 10,220 prior low right here. Or let me actually just double check on this. Yeah, 10,228 actually on Mexico. Let's go to GDAX. That's the chart that we've been following as of recent times, and that would be about 10,335. So all within the same region right there. As long as we're above there, I don't see any real resolution to the downside. Although things once again looks like they do want to test back down around there. To the upside, a little bit more diabolical here. I'd still be using 10,000, or sorry, not 10,000. Looks like we already broke out to the upside. No, 11,000 would be the magical number for myself. Preferably need to see that being closed above or below, below this area right here on a 12-hour or daily, and then we can talk about big bad moves, both to the upside or the downside, respectively, depending upon which one obviously gets broken. If it's 11,000 to the upside, which is looking a little bit less likely right now, as we do seem poised to test some downside here in the short term, then I would be looking for moves back up to 11.5 and 12,000. But just generally bullish buys. To the downside here, it's a little bit more difficult just because macro, looking at the monthly, looking at the quarterly, as we've been showing for the past couple weeks, I still don't really get actually bearish, but I would be looking for a big bad move all the way down here towards about 9,100-ish region. And we can actually just throw on the drawing tools right here. We did do a little bit of a measure move yesterday, of which we could probably just rechart this one today. It's basically the same thing. Nothing's really changed here in the last month anyways. So I think today is actually going to be a big focus on Forex. Forex has been, by the way, By the way, if you've been having difficulty trading Bitcoin recently, I strongly suggest Forex. It's been really fucking good to me, and we'll probably even look at a couple pairs today. As I just think it's easier right now, and trading is one of those games where you don't need to pick the hardest asset in front of your face. I mean, it's great if you can do it, and I want to give a massive shout out to all the people out there who are actually making a shit ton of money trading this. A few people in the program have been doing fucking really, really well, and it's like, oh, nice one. All right, good. You're doing better than you would have done better than me in the last in the last 3 days, which I have massive respect for. That's awesome, man. Fuck yeah. But for myself, I've just taken my kind of ball and run off to Forex land in the meantime, and I'll come back to Bitcoin once we actually break this range below this area right here or above this area right here. This one to the upside, a little bit more of a shallow liquid zone between about 10,950 now that I look at it and 11,000 even. We can put a nice little blue box there as well. Where's my blue boxes? Come on, blue boxes. There we go. Some peace and prosperity to the upside right there, and some death and destruction to the downside right there. And now those would be my resolution points for this. And I'll do a very bad drawing of this now, but you could basically look at this as some sort of symmetrical triangle as it is right now. Now we'll look at a few other assets within the cryptocurrency market that would not really look the same, but this is what you'd be looking at right here. You can make a measure move off that, of course, as well. We've already kind of done it. I'm going to do a bad interpretation of it right now, but this would be pointed all the way back down somewhere between about the 200 simple and the 377 exponential average, which would be pointed somewhere around the low 9,000. So if it does break to the downside, I'd basically be looking for a move back down to around, let's just call it the $9,000 base, which is the point of control on the volume profile right here. Also around the 377 and the 200, as we just spoke about, and that would very, 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 very likely lead up for a very strong bounce. Now, does that bounce turn into reversal or not? Well, that's something that I want to see proven after that. As long as if Bitcoin were to say break below this region right here, I would not be looking at this as a reversal as long as we are then below that breakdown point. So that's the way that I look at it. But at the very least, I'd be treating this as an extremely strong bounce area and a potential reversal area. If this area does fail, obviously there's going to be targets lower, probably somewhere around the mid to low 7,000s, but that's so far away from price action right now that I don't think that it's really appropriate to be speaking about, just because I feel like the further out in time that I go, the more that I can be misheard, because there's just so many different things going on. You got your short term, you got your medium term, you got your long term, and then you got your macro. And so separating all those things deliberately is really, 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 really important, because you can be bullish on the macro but bearish on the on the short term, right? And that's kind of how I feel right here. I do think that Bitcoin is gonna give another test to the downside. Even looking at the 4 hour right here, kind of teetering along the 200 simple moving average. Is that right? Yes, indeed it is. It does look a little bit weaker, and we will see momentum continue on to the downside as long as Bitcoin's essentially below all these major moving averages right here. As you can see, 10,700 is the magical number. Now, of course, that will change on the next tick as well. And look at this. If only I had looked at the 4 hour RSI yesterday, I would have clearly seen that we had hidden bearish divergence between this point and this point, and that actually did get the ultimate top right there, but this would have not been confirmed until this dildo right here. So fair enough. Still would have been a nice little move from about 10,750 all the way down to where we are right now at about 10.5, which is actually what I was looking for 2 days ago to happen. But the flippy floppy happens once again, and that's just me being not all that confident with trading this asset right now, and so to my detriment apparently. Anyways, let's see. Historical volatility percentile on the 4 hour is looking like it's getting set to expand once again. We did break out. I wouldn't say break out. That's not necessarily the right terminology, but we do have a little bit of a difference in behavior here, a change of behavior, you might say, after getting several reads of single digits in a row, especially over the weekend and into Monday. Now actually breaking above that and breaking above, more importantly, the moving average on this. Which does this mean that we could be looking at resolution sooner rather than later? Yeah, I do still think so, actually. Looking at this right here, if we were to draw a regression right through this, it'd be something like this, and it would suggest that we do have likely a very strong probability of actually breaking the range that's correlated with this range on price action between about 10,000 and 11,000 right here, probably within, like I've been saying, this next week is extremely likely, actually. So I do think that we are going to see things start to move from here. So for myself, I will still kind of refrain from trading something like Bitcoin or just cryptocurrencies in general until we actually break the range, but it is suggesting that right now is the time to be putting on those alerts and and be paying attention, because things are getting rather frothy. And that's not just the historical volatility percentile reads, it's also the volume signature right here, as you can see, kind of correlated with what we're looking at as a symmetrical triangle coming off the early September lows right here. And this is about 70 to 75% full as well, which means that it's very statistically likely to break out. And matching that up with also the formation of which, symmetrical triangle being about 75% full right there, and also open interest and also historical volatility percentile, you can start to imagine that this becomes incredibly more likely to break out. In fact, we can take that one step further and go over here to the Bollinger Bands and see if they're tight as fuck, and they certainly are tight as fuck actually. I don't believe that we've seen it this tight for a while. Let's actually go reference that with the BB dubs over here, and if the BB dubs are on the floor, which they look like they are, they really haven't been this they really haven't been lower than where we are right now, except for like a few times in Bitcoin's history. One of those times was this one right here. Look away, Bulas, because this is not going to be good for you. That would be October, November of 2018, before the 50% drop. Bitcoin's pretty much like a small move away from there right now. Obviously, the time before that was more recently in July. This does not imply direction, obviously, because July was a breakout to the upside. And over here in September 2016, this was also a big move to the upside as well, if you want to go all the way back here. So I'm referencing this one right here, and then this one right here. And there are a few other times that we did get, around that area, but I just want to show that it is, we're looking at likely a very big move coming out of this base that's currently being built. So I'm going to get rid of this right now as we get that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory after that. And well, now we wait, I guess. Like I said, I don't think that this is going to take more than a week, really. If we were still here like a week from today, I'd be very surprised, actually. Very surprised. The meaning like within this range between about 10.2 and 11,000 to the upside. Looking at daily MACD, we are once again under pressure once again, and coming at that zero read, which typically you do see counter trend pressure at. Histogram is continuously, or I should say, what's the word that I'm looking for? Continually making, loosening its grip on it, meaning that the momentum is waning here, in this case to the upside, based off that. But, still, I want to see like an actual break of this. So it's telling us what we pretty much already know. It's telling us that it's consolidation. Yes, no shit. But with the way that it's postured right now, this would be more angled to the downside, because we're still kind of just being caught below this zero read right here as the momentum wanes. Typically that will lead on to, let me see if I can find an example of what I'm talking about. This works both to the upside and the downside, but yeah, here's a great example right here where Bitcoin was trying to put in a low in September 2019. I believe that this was, coming out of this base right here. And then it trades sideways for a while. You can see on the MACD, it just kind of dissipates a bit. And as the MACD dissipates, you can see that both of our boys right here are just approaching that zero read, which is going to be your traditional, your stopping point if we are going to remain in the more bearish territory of this, current asset. And in this case right here, you can see that, not so long afterwards, trades sideways, very similar to what we're doing right now as Bollinger Bands contract on it, and then boom, massive move to the downside. This going all the way from what is this, about 10.5? Yeah, about 10.5 all the way down to 73.50. So about almost a 30% move over the course of the next 2 weeks. So that's that's par for the course on Bitcoin. You already know how this works if you've been trading this thing for like a year or more, and that is you get like a week of trend, 2 weeks of trend at most, and then another month to 3 months of sideways. So get ready, my friends. Get ready, because we're about to have one of those times where I do believe that we're going to see a little bit of a trend emerge from here, and then we get to play the fun game of, well, are we accumulating or redistribution? And in this case right now, it does look like, it does look like the way that it's putting in these lower highs, as they get more and more aggressive to the downside, looks a little more likely that Bitcoin will choose the downside here. Of course, the bottom side Bollinger Band is around 10,330, which is our last prior low. If you're looking at this area right here, could you declare a downtrend based off of taking out that low to the downside? Yes, you could. However, I do still think that this one's just a better pivot point, more or less, because it is a very well-defined low, and also we could use a wick continuation lower here too. So that would be 10,135 and a quarter. So one of those two things, happening, and I would call this resolve to the downside, targeting moves down towards 91, 9200-ish region, and looking for a bounce around there. Now there probably would be bounce along the way too. to. I mean, very rarely do you see things just, shoot through the fucking floor and go in a straight line. It does happen, depending upon what time frame that you're looking at. But in this case right here, I'd have an interest on this area at 96.50, on this area right here at about 94.50, and then of course, 9,100 to about 9,200 regions where I'd be looking for like an actual potential reversal and very, 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 very strong bounce. All these would just be relevant to the short-term time frames. So as it stands right now, let me just take this off and let's go through the momentum oscillators. And then I want to spend actually a little bit more time doing Forex today. There's been a lot of interest expressed in that recently, and I mean, I'm more than happy to talk about it because that's what I've been doing recently. I mean, pound yen has been absolutely fucking gorgeous to me, and perhaps some other people out there might appreciate that. I don't know. Please do let me know in the comment section below though, because this sort of stuff, like as a trader, I'm looking for things to trade first and foremost, not necessarily the asset. I don't really, Bitcoin's cool and all, yes, but if there's, if we're trading sideways like this for like a month and a half at a time, well, what do you expect, man? Someone in the Discord earlier related this to like pulling teeth by trying to get money out of this range, and I see what you're saying. It's it definitely has that sort of moniker right now, and when you feel that way, you can always go to a different market. I mean, it only needs to be as hard as you allow it to be. This is a game where, well, there's no rules against that. If you don't like the way that the asset in front of you is trading, you can always go to the next asset, really. Anyways, okay, so I didn't really talk about momentum oscillators on the short-term time frames, have I yet? Except for historical volatility percentile, which we already referenced. 4-hour stokes coming nice and healthily to the downside. Now they will be meeting up with this trend line here. That also means that if it does fail this trend line, I think we had this one drawn in yesterday too. If it does fail this trend line, then that's going to be another perhaps advanced signal that we actually will be breaking on the downside. But of course, looking at a low-term time frame like this, I do feel a little bit guilty. I feel like this is kind of how I get into the situations of the last couple days where the low-term time frames have a little bit of a signal going on. Is that really something to be taken seriously when we're looking at really a month and a half of price action right here? No, the month and a half of price action takes over, and realistically, that's not going to be represented in a 4-hour dildo. It's going to be represented more likely in like a daily, 2-day, or 3-day, which we'll check out soon. But might as well go through it while we're here. And like we already said, momentum remains to the downside as long as we're basically below 10,007. And if we go down to the 3-hour, I expect to see something relatively similar as well. Let's go right here. What does the reverse stochastic indicator cross say? 10,620 is the magical number. Once again, we are seeing historical volatility percentile expand from this region. What about the bi-hourly? We see about the same thing, 10.6. So getting more aggressive. It is saying that we are trending to the downside right now if Bitcoin wants to, and 10.6 on the hourly as well as the magical number here too. So if it is, if I am looking at this and if you put a gun in my head and said, Krown, trade this, I'd say fuck you, because this is literally right in the middle of this range, and that's one of my rules, is I do not trade in the middle of a range. If we're looking at momentum oscillators, does it adjust more down? Yes, it does. Do we have a short-term pop back up, maybe back to like 10,650 or 1070? Possibly, yes, but I don't feel, I would not feel, I mean, that's like a less than $100 move from where we are right now. I mean, have to call a spade, right? But there are some fucking cavalier bastards out there who will look at that, and fair enough, more power to you, but not for me. Anyways, 12-hour, what do we see here? We do see that 12-hour momentum is starting to wane a little bit as well. 12-hour stokes are getting caught and potentially even rejected from getting into the bullish control zone, but let's see what would be needed to confirm that. And any sort of a 12-hour total closure basically below where we are at right now at 10,640 will do that. So you could just kind of, resolve that to be in the 10 simple right here, or just a 200 simple, if you want a little bit more airtime with it. If that were to happen, that would be another good indication that yes, we're not only going to be testing a little bit short-term lower, but probably back down to the low side of the range, somewhere around 10,300-ish region. And is it going to have a chance to break there? Of course, of course it is. Anytime that we come down to that level, it will have a chance to break naturally. Looking at the daily, what do we see here? We do see kind of the same thing essentially. As long as we're below 10,600, basically where we are right now, momentum will turn back onto the downside. You can see a lot of just floatiness behavior right here. I really dislike that, but there is also something of interest as well. We do see that the daily does have hidden bearish divergence now confirmed in play. So with that in mind, I typically do look for a move down to the low side of the range, and in this case right here, that would be around that 10,300-ish region or 10,350-ish region. So yes, if I did have to call it right now, short term, I would be looking for Bitcoin to come to the downside. That does not imply that we're actually going to break to the downside, but obviously, like we said before, anytime that you come back down and test the downside, well, you're going to actually have a chance to break it, and that can obviously lead into more impressive price action, especially where we're positioned right now. Oh, hello! Get the fucking water going today. Jesus, man, my voice is absolutely wrecked, so I can't get the yelling going on right now. Looking at the 2-day, oh, Jesus, there it goes again. Looking at the 2-day. Fucked up. Looking at the 2-day, we do see the jewel turning back down. I really want to see this take a more dramatic turn there, though, and I imagine that we're probably not going to see that until we actually break, again, the range here. So it's just telling us what we already know. But I guess a slight twist to the downside. It's still present. It's still possible. What about 2-day RSI? Flat as fuck. I mean, neutral as neutral gets. 2-day Stokes would be considered more of a bearish reset here as Bitcoin crawls back down to the middle of the range, while it's basically holding an overall range, while Stokes, moves to the top side of around the bullish control zone. But again, kind of splitting hairs here. I really don't feel like that's I really don't feel like this is, the end all be all of what we're looking at right now. Looking at the 3-day, what do we see right here? Momentum will turn back onto the downside with any sort of closure below 10,350. So that actually would suggest. So here's the first time that we actually have something that's very interesting here. That actually would suggest that if we do close this next 3-day below 10,350, this very likely does get resolved to the downside. Now, did we just close a 3-day last night? I think we did, actually. Yeah, because our next closure comes in at not tomorrow night, or yes, tomorrow night, actually. Yeah, tomorrow night. So any sort of a closure below 10,350 tomorrow, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, that would probably be good enough to actually resolve this to the downside as well. That'd also be, I believe, no, it actually would not be closing on a new 3-day low, but more importantly, coming back down to this level right here, while momentum turns onto the downside, being kept within the bearish control zone. That would be a damn good indication that we're gonna have a very strong chance of actually doing that. And realistically, if Bitcoin even does come back down to 10,350 on a 3-day, do you really have higher lows in place? I mean, technically yes, but you don't really want to see it like that. So fair enough. And same thing again to the upside here. About 11,000 is the or 10,950 is the magical number for myself. I'm happy to be patient and wait, because like I said, I'm not trading this asset anyways. I think it's really important to actually reiterate that, just because I have no skin in the game on this one, at least for like the last week to a week and a half. I haven't really made any trades in here, and then of course when last week's news dropped, I made absolutely zero trades, just pulled everything out. Anyways, let's go check out, let's do a little bit of Forex right now. Let's go check out Dixie. Where's my Dixie at? My Dixie chicks, where the fuck are you? I can never find, I need to make a new thingy right here. I think I still have one, actually. Yeah, we got FX right here. All right, beautiful. Yeah, there's Dixie. There you are, you little fuckface. All right, sweet. Popping back up off of the 10 simple on the 3-day, but I don't want to be aware of that. I want to be looking at the daily. Yes, there we go. Okay, so here's what I want to see on Dixie today. If I do want to get bearish on most major assets, especially trading versus US dollars. This goes for Forex, goes for Bitcoin, goes for stocks, basically everything. If we get this next daily closure above 93.80, yes, I would be looking for this one to pop back up all the way to 94.5 over the next week or two, and that's going to put the damper on a lot of every asset that trades against us, most likely. We're also going to see daily Stokes turn back onto the upside if that were to happen as well, holding within the neutral zone and the bullish control zone. Typically a strong read there too. And as we've been saying, I do believe that we're looking at a long-term reversal here. The question is, how fast can this actually happen? Well, as it stands right now, it is being more aggressively picked up here. I would still be cautious, though. I would still be cautious of another move back down to like 92.25. I think that that's possible, but long term, I stick with what I've been saying for the last like month or two, is that I'm looking for a reversal from this region, basically testing the monthly 200 exponential moving average right here, putting in a massive bullish engulfing dildo with September, and that also is going to initiate hidden bullish divergence between this point, this low right here, and this low right here, which would have a more long-term target towards about 96.5, which I do still stick with. So with all of that in mind, that's where I believe that this thing is, or that's where it looked like this thing is going over the next, half year to a year. But in the short-term timeframes, am I getting much off this? This one can still go either way in the short-term timeframes. But if I did have to call it right now, well, if I did have to call it right now, I think I wouldn't call it right now. No, I'd want to look at individual assets. So what we'll do now is we'll actually we'll do something that I haven't done in a very long time. We'll do a little bit of rapid fire right here, looking at the big US dollar pairings. We'll look at pound dollar, we'll look at yen dollar, we'll look at Swiss franc dollar, and what's the other? I don't know. You want to look at fucking Canadian dollar? We can do that too, or Aussie dollar too. Yeah, that one's fine. So let's start off with yen dollar. Yen dollar looking like it wants. Looking like it wants to put in a base here, actually. Or is that right? I would be looking for a short-term down, but I would be looking for it to get picked up off of 0.0094 region. What about the very low-term time frames? Is there anything obvious right here? Yeah, I'd be looking for this one to have another test lower first, but long-term, I'd be looking for it to put in a base around here. This does look constructive, and it does look like it actually wants to break out and continue to follow this trajectory to the upside. I have a measure move here that was based upon a breakout more than a couple months ago in July, and you can see in Forex land, things take time, obviously. So macro, I'm still bullish on, looking for a move way the fuck back on over here, but short term, actually a little bit bearish on this one. Really not even the right terminology anyways, because like when you talk about bullish bears, you should be talking about things that are taking quite some time. But yeah, short term probably coming back down to like 0.94 and some odd change. Looking at what else you want to check out, pound dollar. Pound dollar short term, I'd be looking for a little bit of up here, probably back up towards about 1.29, but I would be looking long term for this one to probably come down pretty aggressively. This is an absolute dog shit chart. We're at the top side of this range currently, so while short term I do think that it pops up a little bit higher, long term macro, this one is bullshit. This one's got a shit coin for their national currency, it looks like. So sorry, British people out there, but seriously, your national shit coin is under pressure, putting in a massive descending triangle on the lows here. Typically not going to be the best, most strongest price action of all time. But yeah, very, 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 very short term, probably a little bit of a pop up. Long term though, down as a direction, probably back down towards about 1.277 in the medium term, and then long term, I'd be looking for it to actually come all the way back down to like 120. Okay, what else we want to check out? Euro dollar. Obviously, we always kind of check out this one. Anyways, we did say a rejection around the weekly 10 simple. Oh, sometimes that TA fucking bullshit works. Jesus, man. I have to laugh right now because I'm just thinking about like how I would have been, I would have been on the wrong side 2 or 3 days in a row on Bitcoin, and then Forex is so fucking obvious right here. So Jesus Christ, man. Oh God. Yeah, this one's coming back down. I'd be looking for this one to come back down and base around 163, we'll call it, somewhere around this prior low. Also the cyan 89 expansion moving average right there. This looks like a very clear throwback to me after a Wyckoff top, and it's kind of like the opposite chart of Dixie on the monthly with ground out. Wait, this does not look right. Oh, I'm using an exchange that doesn't have as much price action history. Fuck it. Well, you know what I'm saying. It's basically still following the 200 expansion moving average, although don't really see it on this chart. You can just reference yesterday's video. Put in basically a bearish engulfing dildo right here. I do think that it will be working its way long term down to about 115 and lower. Pretty nasty chart right there. 12-year long downtrend. Not the picture of health and fitness, you might say. Anyways, what else do we want to check out? Maybe Aussie dollar. Do I even have Aussie dollar? Of course I have Aussie dollar here. Jesus, man. Basically the same chart. Lower high confirmed with the month of September. I'd be looking for this one to come down, over the next couple of months back down to like 0.68 and a half. Somewhere around here would look about right. I imagine that we probably have some hidden bearish divergence too between this point and this point, but caretaker's not marking this off as a local high just yet. Technically speaking, that would be the more conservative way of doing it, and that is correct, but I believe that this is one of those times where being aggressive is appropriate just because of what we see along all the other major assets, or maybe not major assets, but major currencies is the right terminology. So I do think that is going to play out and probably bring it back down, not just back down here like medium term, but long term, probably go for the full retrace on this run, like 0.61 region. Looks pretty fucking bad, but that is again, long term. Short term, I imagine if it lines up with everything else, we're probably going to see some short term up, maybe even all the way back up to 0.7132 region. But that's only short term here, of course. What else do we want to check out? Maybe Canadian dollar. Yeah, we can see that. I imagine it's gonna be the same thing as well. Short term maybe pops back up to 0.75 region. Daily though is ugly AF. Actually, no, it's not. It's not ugly AF. Hold on. What am I getting from this? When was the last time I charted this one? Yeah, apparently I had a massive. Is this on a monthly? It must be on a monthly. Where did I get that from? That doesn't look right. Yeah, that doesn't look right. I don't know when the last time I actually touched this chart was. Where did you touch the chart, Krown? Well, right around here, baby, right around here. But something like this, looks like it's putting an ascending triangle, on the lows as well. I do look at this as likely your next lower high in a series of lower highs going all the way back to 07 October. So this has been, again, about 13 years almost, or actually quite literally 13 years. We are in October of 2020 now. Wow. But yes, this all happening while we're getting basically a bearish reset on monthly Stokes, putting in a lower high while letting that come all the way back up and not even reverting even the monthly trend here is pretty fucking bad, actually, long term. But like I said, short term, does it have a small pop up? Maybe yes. I don't really have a strong, actually, I have no strong opinion on this one short term. I think I would default to that and just go to the other ones. So yeah, anyways, let's go back on over here to our, oh no, it's the other list right here. There we go, found it. Ha, nice one. And I realized that we're already 30 minutes into this video. Nice one. Okay. Is there anything else that I want to check out? Yeah, let's check out Mr. Buterol and also, traditional markets. Yeah, let's check that out. NASDAQ coming down about 200 points. Jesus, man. Yeah. Yeah, this would have been nasty to me yesterday too, but that horizontal actually did hold strong, to be fair. Never was broken, so it was my interpretation of this, not necessarily the technical analysis, that was wrong. In this case right here, I think that this one's, short-term likely coming back down to about 11,130-ish region. Long-term, very likely to come back down and fill out the space right here. What happens to Bitcoin if this thing comes all the way back down to the lower base at 10.9? I'd imagine Bitcoin's going to come back down to, 10,000 even or something like that, test the bottom side of our current range. And that's basically what I'd be looking at right here. And this is a pretty nasty setup, actually. Looking at daily Stokes, what do we see? We see that it's actually already turning down right now and will confirm to the downside with reverse Stochastic indicator cross as long as we close below 11,300 and about 90, let's call it. So as long as we're below there, momentum on the daily is to the downside. And I'd be looking for this area to get tested down here over the next, few days, whatever it ends up being. Here's how the weekly looks now too, based upon this. Weekly looks all kinds of levels of weird. Let's go to E-mini futures. Let's see what SPY is saying. Yeah, SPY looks like a more obvious rejection right here. Yes, and what about on a daily? Yeah, looks like a more obvious rejection here too. Probably be looking for this one to come back down, assuming that we get a daily closure below about 336, back down to the cyan 89 at about 3270-ish region. Maybe even test the prior low as well, depending upon how nasty things get. But what does a 4 hour say? Probably sideways, maybe test a little bit higher towards like 3369 region, 3370-ish region. But still, I'd be looking for this one to come a little bit lower. What else do we want to look at? I think that's pretty much it. Could go quickly check out Mrs. Link. Link coming down to our bottom side target. Right. Oh, nice one. Okay, finally got someone right. Nice one. At 78,000 Satoshis. I'd be looking for a small bounce here. Probably bounces back up, maybe even around like 84,000 Satoshis. But long term, has the damage been done? Yes. The weekly closed very poorly, and we didn't even look at this this week yet. If I would have caught this, this does look like it's going to be going for a deeper retracement long term towards about 63,000 Satoshis. Short term, like I said, probably a small bounce here. Plays out a little bit of sideways, and any sort of a closure below, especially our prior low, right around 75,000 Satoshis. And yes, the next move will be initiated very likely back down, not even to the 55, but actually right around here at about just under 58,000 Satoshis. So a pretty damn big move as well, is what I'd be looking for. And I'm curious what the monthly looks like right now too. Yeah, the monthly is also gonna put in a reversal if that were to happen anywhere below 72,000 Satoshis. Then you got even bigger problems. At the very least, coming down to the 10 simple, that would be your 63,000 Satoshi region. Personally, I'd be looking for a move down to about 50,000 Satoshis and probably a big bounce there. Let's put this on a regular scale. By the way, this is what the actual chart looks like in case you happen to give a fuck. And what do we got on over here? Where's my Buterol? Where's my Buterol? Nope, that's Eurodollar. That's not Buterol. Eurobuterol. There we go. Found it. Yeah, so Mr. Buterol has been a little bit more of an obvious chart too, if I can say that. Putting in what appears to be a descending triangle. Let's get rid of this for now. Let's get rid of this for now too, and let's just go like straight up. Let's just use the force on this one, as I think that this one's a little more obvious. So you do have, or should we just get rid of it? I mean, yes, the blue box still mounted there, but what I want to show is here's what you got. Here's what you got. You got declining highs, and you got the same lows, and we're once again slumping down. So resolution point below about 320-ish region, that will initiate moves much further south because it is a descending triangle. We could make a nice measure move right here. Going to be pointed all the way down towards about 269 region, which is, I believe, prior highs coming in from, June of this year as well, and also this order block that you see going in from February of this year. All very important price actions. So if this area does break, yes, big bad downside for right now. I'd probably probably be looking for a test of this area right here. Anywhere around like 320 to 325 would look about right. Let's actually see if we can go nail this down, maybe on like a 12-hour perhaps. Yeah, somewhere around here. Whoops, did I do that right? No, got my wrong trend line right there. Okay, let's go to the horizontal right here. There we go. And get this nice little swath of price action. So below there, danger zone. Could get bullish back again, above 369 again. But obviously we're very far away from that right now. And with this becoming a very close resolution with an apex, only a couple weeks away, really. Testing the downside sooner rather than later is not going to be a good insight, really. So I'm curious how the weekly is shaping up here too. Yeah, the weekly looks a lot more distribution-y-ish, and I'd be looking for this one to come. Yeah, I actually would be looking for this one to come back down below 300 bucks. So there you go, flip-flopping again, baby, flip-flopping again. Jesus Christ, man, get your flip-flops on, because Krown can't choose a direction. No, 4-hour looks down as well to me, back down to about 330, 325 region. Momentum oscillators here are still pointed southward, as well as volatility is expanding, coming off of multiple, not just single-digit reads, but like 0-digit reads actually. So even more aggressive right there. And I imagine that 12-hour and daily momentum is probably turning down as well. Yes, indeed, we do see 12-hour momentum actually rejecting getting out of the bearish control zone and back down. So a bearish reset was just had. And looking at a daily, what do we see here? Daily momentum is actually freshly crossing down right here too, and that will remain to the downside as long as we close below about 346.80 cents. So there you go. There you go. Anyways, I'll take that off for right now. Let's do we want to go look at probabilities really quickly. I've been getting a lot of comments about probabilities recently, saying that Krown, a lot of the time the probability will be wrong. Well, the probability is not necessarily wrong. I mean, math is math in this case. It's just when something has a 30% probability and another thing in another scenario has a 20% probability, it doesn't mean that the 30% probability thing is going to happen every time above the 20% probability. It just means over a series of times it's going to happen more often, really. So it's not to say that that the other probability is not going to work out. No, that's not it at all. That's just a misinterpretation of it. It's just saying that it's more likely given a multiple series of the same data, which difficult to do. So it does need a little bit of explanation, I guess, I suppose as well. But here I could basically use the same levels that we used yesterday. We could maybe bring this down to like 10,950-ish region. Right here we could do, I don't know, 1020 I think was the area. That would be resolution to me, and we can plot this on and see what Pig has to say about this with the probability panel. And whoops, that's on a 4-hour. We have a 99.99% chance to remain within our current range in the next 4 hours. I'd say that's rather likely. Nice one, Pig. But let's see what happens when we put this on maybe a 12-hour. 12-hour says that we have about a 2.22% probability to actually break out to the downside on this next 12-hour closure. And I imagine that the daily is going to be a little bit more reasonable. Yeah, still the most likely thing is to hold our range for another day, not actually break out, but that does have about a 58.5% probability to happen. To the downside, just over 19%, and to the upside, just over 22%. So again, both of those are what I would consider just about equal probability anyways, regarding the upside and the downside. So what is it telling you? It's basically telling you what you already know. We're in a range, and we're pretty much right smack dab in the middle of this range. What's the most likely thing to happen from this case? Well, we have kind of equal opportunity to break out to the upside and the downside, which would be representative of a symmetrical triangle. So we see classical forms of technical analysis matching up with more experimental. Well, I wouldn't say experimental, but I'd say, I don't know, how would I describe this? Well, I mean, all this stuff is related to each other anyway, so it is kind of silly to bifurcate different forms of technical analysis. I mean, it all is basically the same thing. It's all being based off of technicals to begin with. I mean, I mean, the way that I look at them is they all should naturally have confluence. And in this case right here, that's exactly what it's telling us. We have a very mature consolidation, which still is not really giving us a favorable direction, and favorable directions won't happen until we actually break outside the top side or the bottom side. That's basically the way that I look at it. However, there is a couple things of note here, like we said, that does drive my bias to the downside in the short term. This one, probably the most obvious one right here with the hidden bearish divergence on the daily. I think that's a good place that I'll actually leave this one off at. So I'd like to wish you the best once again. I will be signing off. We'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully getting a little bit more sleep for myself because I feel a bit out of it today. But with that said, take care, and until next time.